Good day, Public Records, Cultivating Donor Prospects Using News, Company, and Public Records Information Call. Recorded. At this point, I would like to turn the conference over to Ginger Cole. Please go ahead. Ms.
Nexis for Development Professional. This is a web-based research tool for finding prospective donors. Give access to comprehensive information sources that help you target and evaluate high-value donor prospects and manage fundraising efforts.
And this is LexisNexis. I have the agenda slide displayed for you, and this is what we're going to cover in today's webinar. As you can see from the agenda here, we'll talk about the public records information and cover both the comprehensive person and business reports. And we'll also go through the individual tab, give you an overview of the information that's available in using LexisNexis for development professionals. And we'll also do a school affiliation search within that tab. Second, go to the company tab, again provide an overview of the content that's available there and perform some searches that will help you with collecting information regarding foundations. Lastly, we will have a wrap-up and a Q&A session, and we'll also display at the end of the presentation contact information for you if you're interested in learning more about LexisNexis for development professionals. And we'll have that contact information up for you so that you can reach out to us. We also have a survey link at the end that you can go to and provide feedback for us. So with that, I am going to switch over to the LexisNexis for Development Professionals interface and show that to you. Bear with me. So looking at here is the interface for LexisNexis for Development Professionals. And on the left here, you'll see this All Public Records tab, which is where we're going to start looking at the Comprehensive Person Report. Now, because this information tends to be sensitive, there's some sensitivity around personal information, we're not actually going to go in and search on a person, but as you can see, we have John Doe entered in. So when you're looking for information on a person in the public records, basically this is what you would do. Enter last name, first name. If you have a middle name, middle initial, you can do that. Also select the state where the person is located or the last address you have for them and be able to find information on that particular individual that way. I'm going to switch back to the slides just to demonstrate the searching on an individual, as I mentioned. Now, why would you go to the public records? This is going to provide a variety of information for you. What that does is once you search it, you get a result screen like this with the person's name and the details as far as address, phone number, Social Security, and so on. The Social Security will always have the last 4 digits masked so that we're in compliance with the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act for privacy. Now show a screen representation of what this comprehensive person report looks like and want to use it. You should see on your screen that display. Now, when you search the public records for an individual, if you make note of the left navigational bar here where it says report contents, you'll see a listing when you pull up a report on an individual. And basically, what we've done here is search across all these different areas you see listed here. Where we do not find information on the individual, we'll have it grayed out. So that means we didn't find anything for the person there. Where we do find information, then you will see the links. And those allow you to actually link to those areas of the report. Some things to point out from this comprehensive person report. Of course, you're going to get the name, the most recent address will be displayed here where my cursor is moving around, and contact phone numbers. Now, numbers typically in this area are going to be residential or landlines. See on the left of the screen, if we can uncover a cellular phone, a mobile phone, or an alternate phone for that person, you'll be able to also click this link to display that information. Other key of interest here in the comprehensive report is your property records. Quite often, you're going to look at property information. So again, this is a link that will take you out to show you what properties that person owns. It'll show either the deed, the tax assessor record, or for some counties, the mortgage records. And one area of interest typically is also potential relatives, so we will provide that for you also. And one good thing about potential relatives is once you open up that link and you have a list of the names, you also see to the right of that person's name, Get Report, where you can actually link out to a similar report on that individual. And that's if you're interested in gathering information on the relatives also. So this is a representation of the comprehensive person report. I will switch back to the we're going to actually do then is to go into the business report where we can take a look at what an actual business report looks like. So similar to looking for information on a person, you can also look up information on companies or organizations, and then use company loosely. So let's say a business or an organization association. Enter the Cleveland Clinic Foundation in here just to display that report, and they're located in Ohio. And typically that's all you're going to need to enter. Click on search, and it'll go out and pull up that business report for your company report, if you will. Now, again, remember the display screen here. On the business reports, you have this link, Get Business Report, to access the actual report. It's very similar to the person report, except that this is going to be relevant to a business or organization. So as soon as you see again that it has the link here on the left where we've found information on the organization, and these are actually links you can click out to, as I mentioned before. So as the summary comes up here, you'll see the entity you search, contact information by web phone, and then links you can go to. I'm going to click, for example, maybe if you're looking at a foundation, you want to find out who to reach out to at that particular foundation. You'll see these links, executives card, and it'll usually have a number, and you'll see the names, and you'll also see over here where you can actually go out and get the reports on those individuals affiliated with a organization that you're searching on. If documents and means, UCC funds, all property information, all of that, as long as it's linked, then you can go to that area of the report. Corporation records will typically show you where they're registered to do business with states, and you can actually pull up those reports by opening up or clicking on source and looking to see where those are registered. In the screen, and I failed to mention this on the person report, but you can also do that with the person report. You deliver this information by printing, by emailing, or downloading the report. I'm going to search and get out of this and go back to that public records area. I just wanted to point out, we pointed out the comprehensive person report and business report, but there's this searches tab also that shows you when you subscribe to the service all the different areas that you have access to within the public records. Now, the company reports will actually pull a lot of this information together for you, like the real property that we saw, the bankruptcies, judgments, and liens, if it's an individual and there are any criminal records and all of that. It'll pull all of those in for you, but just wanted to show that to indicate that there's a wealth of information within the public records that you would have access to. Now, to the individual tab, which is where you're going to do your in-depth research when you have an individual you want to check on. Of course, we've used the public records. You've garnered a lot of information there. But when you want to do that in-depth diligence, this is the tab you will come to. As you'll see the setup, you can enter the name, last name, first name, and all of that, and select the state. However, here at the bottom, and why development professionals is so useful to the development and academic community, is that when you perform a search here, you can select all, and we're going to search across all these sources for you and bring back the data on your individual. Now, I'd like to point out some key things that are accessible here in the individual tab. When you search in an individual, we will make corporate connections for you. So if that person is affiliated with an organization or sits on the board of directors of a company and so on, that we will make those corporate connections for you using the company data. So not only will we show you which organization they're affiliated with, we will also show you in what capacity they're affiliated with that organization. We will also you charitable giving from Wave. So LexisNexis has access to the iWave charitable giving database, and that is made available here for you. You'll see it's the last tab here. And as we're looking at sources, if you have any question at all about what's available in a particular source, you have the eye that you can click on that would give you information about that specific source. Next, this cover personal background, so more biographical type information for you here and background information on the individual. We'll also search the news and uncover any news articles that may be on that person. In a particular news search, we have the negative news search, which is in the background, and it's basically a search of about a paragraph of negative terms like arrested, convicted. But what it's designed to do, if you're searching on a donor, potential donor, an alum, this will uncover any negative news coverage that may be out there on that individual. As far as the news, we have that broken down into regions for you. So in the news, all news, you'll get the big dailies, national, international publications. In these regional areas, it will pull up articles from the smaller regional publication. So if we're searching in Ohio, for example, for a person, it will pull up the in the Midwest any regional publications that may cover the individual you're searching on. And on this particular tab, the wealth indicators are listed here in this column. And as you can see, we have wealth engine information. Some wealth engine information will show executive compensation if that person is affiliated with a public company, stock ownership transactions. The proxy statement is going to be included here in the SEC filings for those of you who are interested in looking at compensation information. What development professionals will do for you when you search in an individual, it'll cover all these areas as long as you select all and then pull up the various pieces of information for you. but I'm going to clear off of here and show you how you can, as an academic organization, if you're looking for individuals who may be affiliated with your particular school, then this would be the tab to use. And we are going to select certain sources that are good for that information. So the biographical sources here, and on the left column here also your Zoom people info. And instead of entering a name, there's a search that we would type in up here, for example, and I'm going to do that. So put it in here. What this is, look in the educational area of these documents to fit any names that are associated with Ohio State University. We'd replace with whatever school you're interested in doing. We'd click on it, and the system will perform the search for us across those three areas mentioned. It will display is in a tabular format. The Zoom information was under corporate connections, and biographical was under personal background. So as the Zoom displays here, then you will get a list of names that will be able to be printed. Of course, I've made no specifications around date or limitations, so it's saying it's going to give me more than 3 results, but as we retrieve those, then you would get your list. So that's like your display, and it'll show the name and then the affiliation. And of course, these documents, you are able to open them up and actually see the actual affiliation. All right, and point out also that, which especially if you're going to create mailers and do mail-ins, you can download. So there's this down arrow that will allow you to download this list and then have access to the information later on. Here's your printer if that's what you choose to do, but there are the different free options available here for you. Go to the results again. So if we go over now to the personal background, then it'll give you any data from those 2 biographical sources. Again, here's the information from Marquise, who's who, and if we click on the other bios, if there's information there, that will also display for you. And of course, as I pointed out before, there are all these delivery options that you have access to as you're using this. Able to perform a search to identify individuals who are affiliated or have been affiliated. They might be an alum or a professor and so on, but you can identify those individuals affiliated with a particular school, university, college, so on. Individual tab, and I'd like to point out the Wealth Engine information. For those of you who are not familiar with Wealth Engine, we have a portion of their database, but what they're really good at doing is to capture information on an individual and present for you that person's capacity to give, maybe propensity to give, net worth, and so on. So we're just going to check the Wealth Engine box, and I'm going to enter a name here that we're going to just use as an example. And I'm going to select a state for this individual, which is Florida, and submit. Just so you can see an example of a Wealth Engine report if you're not familiar with that. And again, this will give you information on the individual and their capacity to give, their propensity to give. Usually what range do they give in? That's so I'll open up the report, and we'll see a person. And it's the information for you. their propensity to give score is 34, which Wealth Engine says if you have a score of 10, that's extremely good. And so you can also search the database for people with just a propensity to give score of 10. And again, we'll put up that contact information at the end, so if you're interested in seeing more, we're glad to show that to you. Here is the estimated annual range in which they give. Here's their capacity to range, and their charitable donations have been in this range, this particular person. You'll see Wealth Engine also provides an income range, net worth, and so on. Very good report, very useful if you're trying to look at an individual and assess, are they a good potential donor, what's their capacity, what's their propensity to give, and so on. That'll take us through the tab for today's demonstration. What I want to do next is go to the company tab. So in addition to being able to search on individuals, you're also able to uncover information on companies. And that's what is available here in the company tab. You'll see it looks somewhat similar to the individual tab. You have a variety of areas here at the bottom that you can search across. So when you're searching on a company, not only can you gather background information and historical information on the company from the company profiles here, if a company is a parent or subsidiary, you can get listing here, any merger activity, their financial status, which would be akin to the wealth indicators, would be here. And information from their filings, if it's a public company, so things like their annual report, 10Ks, proxy statements, as you'll see. If it's a private company, there's going to be information here as well. So no need to worry about it's only public data. You won't get fines, of course, if it's private, but there'll be lots of information in the company profiles regarding that particular company and their financials. Corporate entities, so to speak, you have information here that we can pull from Encyclopedia of Association and other organizations, associations, and so on. And of course, here's your Guide Star information. And then lastly, the news. Again, we pull any news articles that may mention the company name that you have entered here, and you see that negative news and the regional news also. So complete due diligence on a company by selecting all and entering your company name here. What is today in the company tab, and I'm going to clear all, showing you how you can search for foundations in this company data or family foundation. So in the company name, if I wanted to find a list of foundations, for example, I would just type that in here. And down here, you can really select all because there's so much information. What I'm going to do is just restrict for a little bit. So I'm going to say I'm looking for family foundations in Cleveland. And I'll select state. Of maybe you're interested in family foundations out of a certain geographic area. Also use zip codes. If you just have zip codes in Ohio that you want to use or whichever state, you can enter them here on the right in the zip code field. All right. Again, like I mentioned, you can select all, or I'm going to be choosy and just select a few here, like company information, which has the bulk of the company profile, this Encyclopedia of Associations and so on, and Guide Star. And again, this is just to demonstrate how you would pull a list of family foundations. So we click on search. It's going to look very similar to that search we did in the individual tab, where it's going to present it in that tabular format for you. So we selected company information under the background section. So that's the first to display. restrictions on this, but when you're actually doing this, you might have time frames that will tighten this up, so you don't want everything there is out there. But here you'll see we're pulling up these family foundation pieces of information. If we go to the organizations tab also, again, and you'll see here again the options that you can use to download your information. Guide stuff, if it is, then again, the list will be presented to you, and then you can capture the information. Most often people download in so they can work with the data offline and be able to create lists and labels and so on, so they can reach out to the individuals within those organizations. Through the company tab, the final area I would like to cover today is to focus a little bit on this dossier tab. The company tab will retrieve information on companies, and what's different with the dossier tab is that this is pulling from a specific group of sources. So there are 50 profilers of companies here that in the dossier, that when you search it, it puts information together for you and presents it in one report for you. There are about 8 million companies in the dossier, and that's public as well as private held companies, and they're domestic as well as international companies. You can also search for foundations in here. So we're going to spend a little bit of time here in the dossier tab just looking at how you can find, first of all, information on a specific company. I'm going to show how you can use this to also find foundations. And lastly, we're going to look at the executive here and show you how you can build a list of, let's say, CEOs or presidents at foundations, for example. All right, for company-specific search, find a company. With a company name, you can basically type it in here. If it's a public company, you'll see the option for ticker symbol here. But we are going to search, in this case, on Harley-Davidson. Type it in and just click on search. You'll see here you can be very specific. You can know this is a U.S. company and I just want the U.S. information and click on find, or you can search all across the world. This is a display screen, and typically you're going to see the company you search on in the display here. So here's Harley-Davidson. It's the parent company headquarters, and would click on that link to retrieve the dossier report. All right, see, this is the report, and on the left here are links out to the potential areas within the report also. So right in an overview of the report, and you that basic information about the company. Industrial space they operate within, the business description, and you'll see a link here to corporate affiliations. It could be linked to Dun & Bradstreet or Standard & Poor's or some other profiler of companies. But what we do here, this is where the data is coming from for this report. If you actually want to see that report, you can just click the link. It'll open the report for you so you can then go through that specific report. Here's the information on Davidson objects. The corporate affiliations will typically list the board of directors for you also, and so on. All right. More importantly, though, are these here on the left. So we have current news. We've shown you in the company tab how you can search and pull news articles. Dossier also pulls in selected news articles for you. These are selected by the system based on relevancy. So if they're really relevant to the company, then we're going to display those articles for you here, limited to the past 3 months. This executives link here on the left, if we open it, you'll see several listings. These two net prospects and professional contacts. I'm clicking on professional contacts. Will display for you a list of executives, their titles, and phone numbers and email addresses where those individuals can be reached. You'll see the LinkedIn icon here. We present that for you. However, that doesn't mean we're saying that there's a LinkedIn report. What this does is makes it easy for you to click the icon. You would sign to your LinkedIn account, and if you needed to do further research on this person to see if they're LinkedIn and if there are any additional details about the individual, then that's what those LinkedIn icons will do for you. Email addresses, and you'll see the delivery options here on the right. So we've seen them represented as icons. Here they're represented as links. Company again is going to show you that company and the other companies in that family of companies. These signs have under them, so if we expand, you'll have all the companies in the family tree you can download. Let's see, that may be of interest. Are their financials? This is so you know how they're doing from a financial standpoint. So this being a public company, there's going to be very in-depth information here. So it comes up, you'll see there's a 3-year comparison of financials, and that way you're able to see how they're doing. This information is typically put on the balance sheet. As I said before, private company information is available here also. You won't see this depth of information on private companies, but when you click the link to the profiler, like we click on corporate affiliations, any financial data that they have on that company will be displayed within those reports for you. The doc pulls in mergers and acquisitions, SEC filings, and so on, as you can see here. If you check if the company is involved in any sort of litigation, that's also displayed here for you under the recent cases. You can open that up and go in and see if the company is involved in any type of cases. I would be able to go in, use Dossier to pull up a report on a specific company. As I mentioned before, this is also an area where you can go in and find information on foundations. Of course, you know, this is a listing of 1 million or so companies. So if we're going to do that and we just wanted to say, let's see what's out there on foundations, then you can search in here also. At the beginning screen, I'm going to display that in a minute. But again, very similar to what we did on the company tab, but you could just do foundations here, for example, or foundations, foundations, it'll pull it up for you. And we can also, we're going to limit this a little bit. So we're going to say we want this from the U.S. and we want these to be any foundations in Arizona. Search across those 80 million listings for you and pull up. Now, you'll see here in that preview screen of 3, but if you look here, you'll see that we found 1,700 foundations. You can companies to see the or wanted to go to a particular report, just like we did on the company. We can click on the link for the company, and the foundation, and it's going to open up for you. And the reason this up in particular is I wanted to show you here, when we talk about industrial classification, the functions are classified under these codes, 8641 and 813410. So what I'm going to do is capture this information here. Well, maybe 64, remember that. But what you can actually do with that information is also use that to then create a list of foundations and find executives in that particular function. So once you go back to dossier again, you need to do it actually, but list building function in the dossier. So that's what we're going to go to. So we're going to go to executives, and we're going to create a list. And again, I want to capture before I forget is that number 8641, because that's how foundations are classified. So I'd put in, and let's say we're looking for CEOs or presidents. You can enter titles here, separated by commas if you have more than one. We already specify we want foundations. Also, in this company area, you can say, all right, want to most likely restrict geographically. So down here, you can select, where you're located, and if you want a particular state, or if you wanted to do multiple states, if you're checking across a region, you can, select those areas. I won't pick California because they're so big. But select your specific geographic location. Also, you can go down by doing cities or zip codes. Again, you would separate them by commas. So now we're going to to those two cities in these two states. Then if I have my criteria in, so again, I'm going to search for these specific titles. It has to be functions based on the categorization and the name and the geographic area, and create a list. Now we found the names and the foundations therewith and their titles. Up here shows you the total found, 29, because we made it very restrictive. But what you can do with this list is to download it. So we customize the list, and again, on this screen, it allows you to select the pieces that you want to download or not. Once you've made your selections here and update your executive list, then it's for you with the particular foundation therewith, the address information, phone numbers, listed. If we have email addresses for the individuals also, they'll be listed here. And capture some foundation information or individuals in particular foundations as a group, and be able to download that item. It does, that list, it does allow you to download into Excel. So when we click that download option, again, you can deliver that to Excel so you can then manipulate the data from there. So to the end of today's webinar, at this point, I'd like to point out we're going to address your questions, and I thank you for your attention today. I'm going to display the last slide, which has that contact information for you. And after this, we'll also display the link to the survey.